This Todd-versation is brought to you in part by Shift Creative. Start shifting. With promotional consideration from Volcano Produce.
Well, hello, everybody. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening. I don't know what time it is in your world, but I hope whatever time it is, it's a good damn day. That is my goal. I wake up every morning thinking that to this world. Like, God, I hope we can have a good day as a planet today. Wouldn't that be great? Every day was a good day as a planet. God, so many things we could get accomplished. I don't even know what to think. That's such a profound thought. I don't even know what to say about that now, Paige. I'm already over my skis in my optimism about this world. I'm super excited you guys are here. We got a great show for you. It's May, it's Mother's Day, it's flowers, it's about giving, it's about showing the love to the person on this planet that should mean a lot to everybody, your mom, giving it back a little bit. Mother's Day is right around the corner. I thought, what a great way to talk about Mother's Day, get into it. Let's talk about flowers and the floral business a little bit, because nobody likes to talk about the stepchild that is the floral department, but I want to talk about that. Paige wants to talk about that. So we're going to get into it today. I've got a great guest with me from a great retailer in Southern California that I'm a huge fan of. I shop at. I love this store. I love what they represent. I love the story behind this store. It's a true American dream. You have an immigrant coming into this country who started this store back in 1985. They got 53 stores now throughout Southern California, through California, I should say, not Southern California. You guys expanded, no doubt. Enrique Gonzalez has built a hell of a good company, and I am a huge fan of what they do. I'm a fan of being in their stores. I love the vibe that you guys give off, and I thought, hey, you got a great floral department. I'm calling Paige. We're going to get her on the show. We're going to chat this up a little bit. So please, everybody, welcome the director of floral, or floral director, whatever direction you want to call that, from Vallarta Supermarkets. Please, everybody, give it up for Paige Venable. Welcome. I'm so glad you're here today.
Thank you. Me too. It's a pleasure to be on.
Thank you. You say that now. Say that at the end, and I'll feel good. That's my wish. Just say that at the end. That's all that matters. Now, I'm super excited that you're here because, floral is such a big part of the grocery retail business. Floral is a big business, period, in this country. It's a big global monster that's out there. And I don't think people recognize the power, how much money's out there in floral. So I'm looking forward to getting into the weeds a little bit. That was a floral joke. I said, getting into the weeds. I'm working at Paige. I'm working hard right now.
I know. I'm trying. I'm
telling you, Paige, I've worked up some damn good material for this show. Trust me. But I'm really excited that you're here. And again, if you wouldn't mind, just tell me a little bit about your journey and bio and how the hell I roped you into hanging out with me today.
Well, my name's Paige Venable. I came up, I actually, how I got into this business is kind of weird. I had an extremely misspent youth. And I was just looking for a job, and a wonderful store director named Bob Peterson over at Ralph's. He gave me my first real responsible job. I was 30. And he gave me the floral manager job over at a very busy store. When I got in there, 280 over in Marina Del Rey. Shout out to 280.
There you go.
It was wonderful, but we were in the back, and it was an old store. It just come off being an alpha beta, and it was a great store. They did the remodel. They put us in front, and I was there for my entire career. I was there for 7 years.
Wow.
I learned everything that I know today. I learned through coming up through the stores. I knew nothing, in the beginning. There was a ton of flowers that I would throw in the trash because I thought that they had arrived dead. I didn't know anything about wet pack. I didn't know anything about dry pack. I was a mess, and they just let me flourish and grow. And I worked my way up there. And when the opportunities started to peter out, I moved over to Whole Foods. And God bless them. They were amazing. It was like taking everything I had learned over at Ralph's and just, letting it loose, because they were very loosey-goosey back then. I was at the stores for a year there, and you could kind of buy from anybody. Somebody could walk up with like an armful of flowers and say, I grew these in my backyard. Do you want to buy them? And it was really crazy. A really dynamic time. And after a year, I had every intention of moving up. And after a year, the buyer left, and he said, I think you're the person that can do this job. And from there, I did that job for 12 years. I absolutely loved Whole Foods. And then, Vallarta was looking for for a floral buyer, and I interviewed for the position. I actually had no intention of leaving Whole Foods. I just kind of wanted to see what was out there. And and then I met ownership over at Vallarta, who are absolutely wonderful people. And I saw the way that their floral program currently was. And I knew that I really could come in and make a huge impact. And that's like, don't we all want that professionally?
Absolutely.
You know, we all want to put our mark on the world. And so, you know, I've been at Vallarta now for almost 6 years. I absolutely love it there. Really, really dynamic, wonderful stores, exceptional clientele, really great team members. It's a great company. But yeah, so I've been doing this for 25 years now.
Wow.
So, yeah, and I've had really what people call luck. I'm just brave, but you know, I've had exceptional luck. You know, I've switched companies at the right time, and I've gone in the right direction, always at the right time, and I'm really grateful for that. And so this is what we're building over at Vallarta as a culmination of that.
I love it.
We're really, you know, I've been really fortunate this year. I've been able to hire some people who I consider, you know, make up my dream team, and we're really, really starting to affect big change in the stores. And I'm just really, really pleased with it. The customers are excited, and you know, everybody's really engaged, and we're really starting to sort of be able to do these things that I always thought, you know, God, I really want to do that, but there's always these kind of constraints, and that's not the deal now. Now I'm really able to sort of think of programs and think of things in a new way, and if it makes sense, you know, it's easy to get sign off and to move forward in those areas. So
I love it. Well, you know, you said something I got to come back around on. You talked about getting lucky, and I think a lot of it has to do with the path that we walk, right? We make choices on our path, right? You made a choice to go to that. You didn't really want to go to that. Wasn't really, it's like I went to it, but I didn't really care that much. And then look what you've done. And now look where you're at. And talk a little bit, if you wouldn't, just more specifically about what all you're responsible for, you know, floral wise at Vallarta, if you wouldn't mind, just to give that a little frame up for everybody.
Sure. When I first got to Vallarta, it was just cut flowers and plants. That was my sort of my box. You know, anything that had to do with live and cut floral. Now I'm also in charge of the balloons and the greeting cards. That I've had that for in Mother's Day. It'll be a year that I've had those. We have doubled the sales in that. It just is a natural marriage. You know, the balloons especially, you know, it really, we're able to really give the customer what they want. And we're, you know, we have personnel, and that's the difference between us and sort of the GM departments, is like, we have personnel here who can take care of you. If you need something, we can help you with it. So
I love it. Yeah, no, well, being a shopper of the store, knowing firsthand what it's like to walk in. I mean, it's an incredibly impressive store. I mean, it is a melting pot of clientele. There's no two ways about it. It is a Hispanic store by nature, quote unquote, whatever there, but it is as diversified as any grocery store I've ever been in. There's all walks of life walking through there, doing their shopping, which is a testimonial, I think, to how nice the stores are and what an impact you guys are having, especially in the communities that you're in. There's no two ways about it. But I want to get back in a little bit and talk about flowers, because flowers is, you know, as I did some research for our time together, like I do with all my shows, like, okay, what do I want to learn? What don't I know? Right. It's like, well, shit, I don't know anything about this stuff. And so I was like, wow, I was blown away. You know, flowers are a massive deal. I mean, it's a $41 billion global market. Roses make up about 14 billion just of that number. Flowers in the United States pushing over $8 billion at least in sales. And one of the things that really surprised me, and I don't know why this baffled me so much, or why this was such, you know, my small pea brain just absorbed it down, I guess, but there's like over 33,000 florists just in the United States alone. I mean, I think you guys, quite frankly, I think you're beating Starbucks.
It's a huge industry. It's a huge
massive
industry. Yes,
it's massive.
It really, really is.
Yeah, it's so surprising. And again, you know, and I think so much when you think about retail and you think about the fruit and vegetable side of this business, which, you know, they're connected at the hip, because most retailers, you know, have floral that's connected to produce in some way, somehow. It's usually kind of cross-pollinated. Look, I did it again. I'm coming in hot with these jokes.
These puns are just never ending.
Got 2 shows on Thursday, tried the deal, and don't forget to tip the waitress, right? But, you know, when I get into it, I started looking at, you know, Valentine's Day obviously is a big holiday. That's the biggest one floral wise, about 36% of sales in this country. And Mother's Day comes up as number 2 at 28%. That's 2 big days right there, which has to be crazy. I mean, I know when I drive by during those holidays, some of the flower shops, I mean, it's just chaos. I'm sure it can't be any less chaos for you guys. So one of the things that interests me when I started digging into this, and I want to get your perspective on this as I kind of frame up the size and scope of the market, is that flowers is no doubt a massive international business. The same thing as fruit and vegetables, and probably even more so in some ways in this country than fruits and vegetables in a lot of ways. So for like Valentine's Day and for Mother's Day, the U.S. imports like 79% of its flowers just to cover the demand, which is massive. And I'm assuming roses are a big part of that. So my very first question, with all that big global frame of what we're dealing with, how do you manage global supplies from your side?
Thanks for joining the Todd-versation. And now, a word from our sponsor.
Thanks for listening to Todd-versations. This episode is sponsored by Shift Creative. Shift Creative brings a fresh approach to design and marketing. Shift's team of expert designers and strategists create content that connects and engages. Our clients are a collaborative part of our process, working directly with the creative team to build their award-winning projects. Specializing in branding, messaging, packaging, marketing, and websites, with decades of experience serving the food, agricultural, service, and tech industries, Shift can help your brand to tell its story. Visit startshifting.com to get started. Make a difference with your marketing. Freshen up with Shift Creative.
Yeah, it's really interesting. There's a lot of people that sort of choose to do that work themselves. They get themselves a nursery license and they get an import license and they do all that. I choose not to do any of that. In this day and age, most suppliers are also importers, especially rose vendors. There is no rose vendor that's not an importer. So what I do with my importing, because a lot of the stuff that's not roses, for Vallarta, roses are our number one item. Period. And what's more interesting is it's red roses, that is not true throughout the rest of the industry. Normally you will mix up your cases. For instance, you will mix them up 5 color and 2 red when you're buying them for a retail organization. We're the opposite. We buy 5 red and 2 color in our cases. And it's just consistently our number one item. So what I do, the rest of the things that are imported, I just tack them with my rose vendor. It's just so much easier for me to just deal with that and not have to handle all of that logistically. If I find items that I want that, let's say, come from Holland or come from Mexico or something that's coming from Chile or whatever, if I find those items, I normally tip off my rose vendor and I say, I'm interested in this and this and this and this. Can you check out some pricing for me? And I let them do that work, I really view the industry as a whole as a partnership. You'll hear me, I use euphemisms all the time. I'm just constantly have my own little sayings. And so like I always say, like a rising tide lifts all boats. And that's like, for me, I want other retailers to do well. I want other vendors to do well. I want everybody, I want people stealing my ideas and using them. I'm going to steal other people's ideas and use them. I want us all to get better, because when you improve, I improve, And so like all of my vendor relationships are truly partnerships, I've worked with the same vendors for many, many years. I'm always open to new vendors. When I came to Vallarta, I brought on some new vendors I'd never worked with before. But for the most part, everybody that I use now, I've used throughout my career, because it's pretty much, when you find somebody who can give you good product, that's not the whole equation, right?
No, 100% not.
Are you going to get it to me? Is it going to arrive, in temp? Is it going to have traveled well? Are you going to guarantee it? Are you going to put your money where your mouth is? If it's not okay, all of those things. So that's how I develop all of my partnerships. But I myself just don't manage the importing part. It's just, when I was a buyer, it was like a whole different thing. You're just buying, and there's people above you in a corporation that are making all the bigger decisions and the larger decisions. There's some stuff that gets done, at a global office, et cetera, et cetera. But like in my position, I'm the director, but I'm doing all of the little teeny tiny moving parts. So I really have to be very conservative about where my attention is focused on. So anything that I'm currently doing that someone else can do, I need to figure out a way that I'm not doing that a year from now. So
100%. Yeah, no, well, that's absolutely the trajectory you want to take. You don't want to be bogged down. And to be fair though, look, you've got an amazing array of airports at your disposal between LAX, Ontario. I mean, it's a big hub for flights going all around the world. I mean, you can go to India from LAX, you can go to China, you can go anywhere in Europe from LAX. I mean, it brings the world to you.
And I will tell you that my importer, we were the first ones doing this with my importer. We did it in my last, tenure over at Whole Foods is that while everybody else back in the day was still flying into Miami, all roses, for those who don't know this, all roses are normally flown into Miami and then they're trucked across the country.
Right.
To different parts of the country. And that's mostly because Miami has a really, really good entry point. Mm-hmm. They have excellent, agriculture inspectors. They have an excellent process over there, and it's hard to beat that. But we're in California, and we have LAX right here. So my rose vendor started flying into LA probably, I would say 15 or 17 years ago when no one was doing that. Yeah. And it cuts a week off of the time of the travel. I mean, when you want the freshest possible product, that's the way to do it. And in the beginning, it was really, really rough. We got some subpar product because, of course, ag here is not the same as over in Miami. It took a while for them to catch up, but now other importers are doing the same thing. There's roses being flown into LA, which again, rising tide lifts all boats, right?
Yeah, 100%.
We do it different, and we perfect this process, and now we've got other rose vendors doing it.
And I love what you say about that, Paige, because I say this all the time on the other side of the equation, was fruit and vegetable sides. Like, look, our number one goal, everybody's goal should be the same, which is to increase consumption. Oh, yeah. Right. Because if we can increase consumption of floral, we increase consumption of fruits and vegetables, increase consumption of, healthy drinks and good school nutrition, all these other things, everybody gets lifted up. Right. And that's, back to what I said in the beginning, it's that moment every day when I sit there and go, God, I hope the world has a good day today. Right. And those are those things I think about that are so incredibly important. Talk to me a little bit, though, because I want to stay on the supply side conversation for another second. Obviously, the last couple of years, we had this thing called COVID. I don't know if you heard about it, but, supply issues have been real. Exactly. Supply issues have been real. What has it taught you, having gone through that now for the last couple of years? Because you got affected too.
Yeah, it's really interesting because I've been through a lot in this industry. I went through 9/11 and I went through the housing market crash. And if you think those things don't affect floral, then it's not true. Like everything, when people stop purchasing, they stop purchasing everything. And so, I've been through all of that, and I developed skills. I'm so grateful for that because I developed a lot of skills to try and learn how to, what's the breaking negotiating point? How do you get a better deal without hurting the other person? How do you figure out partnerships where you can help each other out? How you do all these things? Because the whole entire industry is suffering, right? Right. So you can't be the anvil that's pushing everybody down. You need to find a way to keep this industry alive. Right. And so COVID was a perfect example of that. A lot of the big retailers just turned off the tap. They just stopped selling floral, and that's huge. That's a big deal because when you've got the big guys that are no longer purchasing, you've got all these farms suddenly that are sitting on not only cased up product that's not going anywhere, they've got fields and fields and fields of flowers that they're not going to pay somebody to harvest. Mm-mm. Why would they do that?
Same as produce. I mean, identical story.
Yeah. So what happened during that time was, the tap got turned off. I just went right back. And this is the nice thing about being at a smaller company. I went right back to the drawing board. I looked at, because we were still selling flowers, right? We're just not selling as many. People are still buying. And so in the beginning, when everything turned off and everybody was like going to produce and stuff, sure, our sales tanked, but there were still flowers going through the register. So those top 5 items in cut flowers, I kept buying those. Right. And I kept buying the top 3 plant items, and I kept pre-made arrangements. I just scaled way down to just the nucleus of what we were doing. That way, all of my vendors got something. They still got POs from us, even though they weren't great. Some of the POs I was cutting was $800. It was not, it wasn't great, but that vendor was getting a PO. And, it's just like with anything. You can't just turn off the tap and then suddenly, just before Easter, when they decided, it's okay.
Oh, it's all better now. Surprise, we're here.
Suddenly, everybody wants to turn the tap back on, think that just everything's just going to keep flowing. And it doesn't work that way.
No way.
Because people have stopped planting, they've stopped harvesting, they stopped doing all that stuff. So by me just keeping a little bit of a trickle going, I kept myself at a good place in the line when things turned on, you know. And I just kept it going. But it was nice because I know in a corporate entity, it would have been a little different. It's a little more difficult to do that because you've got, you know, a thicker chain of command to work with. You know, I pre-order all my product. We don't buy and hold. So I pre-order my product. So it's like coming in on Tuesday and going out on Wednesday. So I had everything sort of synced up to the point where I could order on Monday for what was going to arrive on Tuesday. And then it's going to the stores on Wednesday. Then I'm looking at the sales on Thursday. And, you know, it was really, really
cycling through. Yeah.
Going because I just took over all the ordering for the stores and it was all data driven. You know, I will say that that's one thing that I think that my industry in particular, you know, people like to look at the flowers and say, oh, you have such a nice job. It's so pretty. It must be so fun and blah, blah. It's a business. Data. And so as long as I stuck with the data, I think that we managed through it really, really well. But watching the damage that all of this has done to the supply chain, and even now we're still feeling the effects. You know, you can look in some stores and you can see really, really small plants on the, you know, on the racks and stuff. And I was frustrated by that for so long because I really felt like, you know, what's going on now? Is everybody buying and you're just taking it off the racks?
Right.
And they said, yes, there's just nothing, you know, stop growing. We stopped growing. So now we've got smaller plants. And so it's taken up until now to start seeing sort of normal sized things and normal.
That's interesting. That's an interesting perspective. I didn't think about that, but that's true. And to your point too, you know, if you're in South America doing flowers and you all of a sudden get the spigot turned off, I mean, it's just not like you can call the airlines and say, I need the space. They're going to fill the space. There's all these moving parts. So, you know, with that being said a little bit, I want to kind of keep on the subject. I mean, obviously we're talking about Mother's Day. It's coming. It's a big to-do, right? And I want to talk a little bit how you prepare for a holiday like this, right? Because I'm assuming it's got to be a lot similar to what the produce industry is, because you guys are kind of at times you're sitting in the same room, you're having some of the same dialogue, you're kind of top to topping across the office, I would imagine. So, I mean, are you working super far in advance? Are you laying out programs? Are you writing contracts? Are you sitting there going, hey, it's February and I'm doing, you know, my Thanksgiving ordering now, or my thought process, you know, planogram, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, it's not that far out for me. I've never really been that way, which causes everybody around me stress. But, you know, it's just I'm more comfortable working under an extreme deadline. There's some forecasting that I do. There's a lot of things that I book year after year after year, and I will book them for the following year, immediately following a year. So things like for us, Day of the Dead is really big, and, you know, obviously, you know, all these other things. But so some of those commodity items I book right after the holiday for the following year. And then they just know it makes it so much easier. Then when it comes up, they just don't bug me until the crop's coming up. And then they say, here you go, you know, this is what your numbers are. And then I start breaking it out. And, you know, I'm a very data-driven person. It is one of the ways that I've always fought for my space within Floral, you know, is because, you know, you just show them the data and then, you know, they can't argue with your footprint. So, so that's that kind of forecasting. Yes. But then also, you know, I've got my whole forecast. I've got my whole, you know, order guide laid out. I really give a suggested order to the stores because, again, data, you know, I have access to more data than the stores do. And I break it all out and I give it to them. And and then the supervisors take a look at that because they know better specifically their stores sort of, you know, we can take 10 more of this or that and blah, blah, blah. So, yeah, there's a lot of forecasting that goes into it. But the actual, you know, no matter how you slice it, these floral holidays are always a mad rush at the end.
Oh, yeah.
You know? But by the time that the customer is thinking, oh, when was Mother's Day? I got my feet up on the couch and I'm
you're done. You're done with it. You don't care. You don't care. I'm over it. I'm over Mother's Day and it hadn't got here yet. But
I will say this for Vallarta, you know, the stats that you said earlier, you know, for Vallarta is Mother's Day is our largest holiday.
Really? Yeah.
Because there's two holidays. We have American Mother's Day.
Mother's Day.
Mother's Day.
Yeah. I didn't think. Yeah, true. I didn't. Yeah.
With both of those, we do double what we do at Valentine's Day.
That's unbelievable. That's pretty impressive. Do flowers? similar to like what fruit and vegetables do, or coffee, or any kind of commodity type deal? Do they have commodity price swings? I mean, do they have, $10 today, but then it rained and now all of a sudden it's $57 type of deal, or is it fairly steady?
It's fairly steady.
Yeah, I kind of figured.
I say yes-ish, because there are some factors that will change things, but for the most part, it's not that crazy pricing that happens in produce. Yesterday it can be $12 and tomorrow it's 25. So
correct.
There's huge fluctuations according to whether a crop failed, whether this, whether that. What happens to us is that when those commodity shifts happen, is that like the bigger retailers will get their stuff and we just won't get ours. Like that's kind of how it sort of works out. They don't sort of play a pricing game. They just sort of fill the orders that they can fill, which is why I work with the same vendors over and over and over.
Well, that's typical. Produce plays by the same rule book at times, right? The market gets good. It always seems like the guy that's paying the top of the market finds supply when the guy that loves you every day seems to dwindle away in the background. Yeah, I know. That game is like that shell game you see. It's like the 3-card game you see on the streets. In New York, where it's just like, find it. It's like, I totally get it. How many? So because you're a grocery store, right? And impulse is a big part of the shopping experience in this country. 100%. I mean, you can't walk through a store and not look at the schematics of a store and go, that's designed for impulse. That's designed for impulse. So how many flower purchases are impulse buys at the store, do you think?
Well, I will say in general, in any floral department, it's got to be high 80s.
I wasn't going to say that high, but I was going to get up there.
Because, there's a gentleman in our company who always says this, and I love it. He says flowers are never on the list, right? So when you go with the shopping list, you're never going to have like buy a bouquet of flowers or buy a plant or any of that stuff. So most of those purchases are impulse. But after you've given the customer good product time after time after time after time, your percentage of impulse will go down, and a lot of just reoccurring, you become like their destination for flowers for them.
Yeah. Well, that's what I was leaning into, because that's kind of where I wanted to go, because the fact you're so consistent in what you do, and they're going to buy milk and they're going to do other stuff. And you're right, it's not going to be on the list. And a lot of times it's probably some guy that's in trouble anyways, trying to kiss a little ass. We know how that game works. I mean, I'm a guy, I can talk about that game, but it does all of a sudden take that impulse, or, for quote unquote, air quote impulse, right? Purchase, and turns it really into a planned opportunity. So if I'm hearing you correctly, that's what's ending up happening. You're getting that, that impulse, that one-time buy turns into a lifelong customer, based probably upon the consistency. Certainly has to do with the quality of the source, because I mean, your flower department's pretty damn nice.
Absolutely. And during COVID, we really had a golden opportunity. People were at home and they started buying flowers for themselves. Plants went through the roof. Everything went crazy. And I said it then, and I'll say it again, like during that time, quality was probably the most important part of the equation. Because even the price wasn't as important as the quality. You have to teach people, because they're sitting at home, and for the first time, that gift of flowers or the flowers they bought themselves or whatever, they're able to see it when they get it, and every single day.
That's a good point. Yeah, that's a good point.
See it bloom and go through the whole process, and you give them quality, they're going to get a week, 2 weeks out of that bouquet. And of course, their plant, they're going to lovingly take care of it and see it grow and all that stuff. If you're out there hawking subprime,
substandard product. Yeah.
Yeah. If you're out there hawking that, you're not going to survive that. So I think that we did a really, really good job during that as well. And we tried really hard to have a lid on our highest price. Commodities were so expensive during then; it was just ridiculous.
Oh, sure.
You got to be sensitive in some manners, but we really our particular focus, price is important, but it is just never as important as quality. We don't have the cheapest roses, we don't, but I can guarantee you we have the best.
Yeah, I've said this, and I've cut my teeth on this expression. Somebody taught me this 1,000 years ago when I started the business, that people will long forget your price, but they will always remember your quality. Boom, period.
I agree.
When it comes to this business,
especially with a floral purchase, it's something with sort of an intangible volume, right? Or value. So you're buying something, you're going, God, $15. Do I want to do that? Do I not want to do that? If you take it home and you get 2 days out of that, most customers, 90% of customers who get bad product do not complain, but they will never buy again.
Buy it again, right? And that's worse.
Never. And they will tell their friends.
Yeah.
And it's period. And it's the way that human nature is. So it's very, very important that you're offering that quality product, because if they take it home and they get 2 weeks out of it, or they get 7 days out of it, same thing. They may not tell you, but they'll tell their friends, and they will constantly in their brain say, you know what, this other place may be cheaper, but this is better. Yeah, and that's where you want to be.
And you throw social media behind that, and all of a sudden the world is now your poster child for bitching and complaining about anything. Yeah. Something I get, again, going to do my research a little bit, I thought this was interesting, that men spend around $95 annually on flowers, while women only spend about $65 annually on flowers. Any thoughts about that? Any reason? I mean, other than guys getting in trouble.
Thoughts on that. First of all, I think that, a lot of us, we think that flowers are a frivolous buy, and so we won't invest that in ourselves. And also that feeling when you get a gift of flowers and you have it there and you see it every day, like that's such a wonderful feeling. And I think that men know that. So like, there's no problem with our clientele, with our customers. I love our customers. 90% of the time, Fridays, our sales always go up, and it's the guy coming home from work and he's always buying a bouquet for his wife. I will say the Latin customer really, really buys an extremely higher amount of flowers than other ethnicities, I would say.
Interesting.
It's really built into the Latin culture, and I appreciate that so much. I just think it's so beautiful.
Well, you lead with love. It starts, lead with love. Makes for a better weekend, right?
Yes. You're always taking a bouquet to your mom or to the cemetery or for your first date or, home to your girlfriend. There's always flowers, always, always, always flowers. I really love that.
I love that. No, I think it's great. I want to get into this a little bit. There's a gazillion things that you could put in a floral department. I mean, a gazillion. I don't even know if that's a real number, but there's a gazillion. So how do you kind of coming into that dollar amount and what impulse is and that, how do you select what to put in there? Because, is it really worthwhile putting a cactus with a little dog in the pot? I mean, some of these crazy. So how do you go through the process of like what works?
It's not always perfect, right? I'm just a human and I'm trying to forecast what people will like, right? So there's a part of it, there is, obviously data-driven stuff. We know year over year, certain items sell. And what we're looking for is the current container. So we know every year that succulents sell in summer. People love succulents. You can get an ocean of succulents in a million different colors, and you can get the hottest and greatest and whatever. But none of that really matters. It's the pot. People that pot. Because we're selling to a finite amount of customers. The customers I'm selling to shop at Vallarta every week. Right. So I can't carry the same thing over and over and over. They already have that. So you have to kind of keep it current, and you have to keep it changing. But you also, the hardest thing for me to do is restraint. You have to, at some point, you have to say, I can't have everything. So what am I going to focus? What am I going to focus on? You look at the set behind you, and that's a perfect selection. But then if I change into something else and you have one pot left of one of those, and then you have another pot, and pretty soon it can get really, really messy. But
it can get a little wonky.
Most of my decisions are based on what I want a floral department to look like. And so, if we've got a long stretch, because there's been lots of them where there's no blooming available and we are over skewed on green plants, I will pick out one or two blooming items that I'm being offered, and I'll go heavy on those, just to get that pop of color, to make it not look just like a jungle or any of those things. But, most of my purchasing decisions have to do with sort of what it looks like the trend is moving towards in the future, and what sort of look I want. Because there's times when I want the look that's behind you, which is very clean and very edited. And then there's other times during summer and during spring that I want it colorful and bright, and I want everything to pop. And then, You move into Valentine's Day, you want things to be more edited and more towards, the classy reds and pinks. And
this is great. I don't think there's people, there's people on the other end of this podcast around the world right now are going, I didn't know that. I didn't think like that. I never thought of it like that.
Yeah.
No, truthfully, I mean, it's a great, it's like merchandising 101. There's no two ways about it.
It's all a partnership too. Like I sit at a desk, I sit at a desk. My tenure is looking at the data, moving the product through, but I have amazing merchandisers.
Right.
And we create a plan surrounding it. We create like a whole ad display surrounding that. And what do we want that to look like? It's not just random items. It's like, what do we want that display to look like? And then when we move out of that and move into something else, we kind of want the new product to sort of tie into the old ad product because we have to sell through the ad product as well.
Sure.
We don't want it to look like we're going from green into, suddenly we're doing purple.
Right.
You need to somehow make it all work. And it's just a constant flow. And it takes the whole team. It's not just me for sure.
Thanks for joining the Todd-versation. And now, a word from our sponsor.
Thanks for listening to Todd-versations. This episode is sponsored by Shift Creative. Shift Creative brings a fresh approach to design and marketing. Shift's team of expert designers and strategists create content that connects and engages. Our clients are a collaborative part of our process, working directly with the creative team to build their award-winning projects. Specializing in branding, messaging, packaging, marketing, and websites with decades of experience serving the food, agricultural, service, and tech industries, Shift can help your brand to tell its story. Visit startshifting.com to get started. Make a difference with your marketing. Freshen up with Shift Creative.
Well, you threw me a softball for my next question. I couldn't have teed that up any better. I could, but some of the stats, again, I got into this. It's like really surprising. Some of the stuff that I peel back. Maybe I've heard it before. Maybe I haven't. I don't know. It's like, holy mackerel. They talk about floral departments, in the flower business have as high as a 70% margin out there. I mean, it's a pretty kick-ass business, but just leaving it at that. I'm not asking another question. I'm just leaving it at that. I'm making a statement, not a question. So with that being said, though, and I think you brought this up a little bit earlier, and I was holding off on it a little bit, but I want to get into it now because I think this is a really interesting question to throw at you. With the margins calculated down to the square inch in a grocery store, let's be honest, it is. How do you manage floor space? And more importantly, how much pressure do you receive from other departments that want to steal your space away from you?
Yeah, that's a hard one.
Let's hear the baggage. Give me the baggage, Paige. Pick for fight. Here we go.
It's your constant battle, right? When you're at store level and you're trying to just protect your space, like, no, you can't have this when you're trying to do that. And you've got a store director that's saying to you, yeah, but I really need to put a beer stack right here. I really need to do a pallet drop of water right here. That's where I always go back to data. Like when the girls tell me like, hey, I'm having some pushback and I need some, it's like, okay, well, let's run the data. Like how much do we sell of that display in a week versus how much dollar water are we going to sell? So right. we need to look at that. If we sell that entire pallet, is that worth losing, the 4 feet you just lost, so those are, I rely heavily on data. I think that really, it solves all the fights.
Hard to argue.
Because otherwise people, what they're left defending is like, well, I feel like, and like, okay, well, you can feel that way, but this is what the data says. So
yeah, and it throws in another question too. I'm going to come back to it's like, because there was a moment, I think, or a process. You've been in the business a long time, so you can reflect back on, on your tenure, and maybe this fits or maybe it doesn't fit. But there was a point where the floral department was just there, right? It was just there. It was a byproduct. It was what it was. Blah 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 blah. But there was a point in the last however many years, wherever it was, that the retailers that the mothership upstairs recognized the benefit of having a floral department located in the store and what that means. And we talk about margin dollar. Yeah. We talk about fighting for space. When did retailers kind of clue in like, oh, wait a minute, we got to get a little smarter about this?
Well, it's interesting. I think that, Alpha Beta was like the first to get the cases, started and all they did was like pre-done bouquets. And that was
sure.
It. They did sort of what we would call today as like a plant stand store. You would have just a cooler with pre-made bouquets, and then you have plants next to it. Very easy to maintain, all of that stuff.
Yeah.
But nobody was really manning departments. And that was like 89, 90, I want to say. Nobody was really manning departments until like 10, 15 years later. Then they started to get this idea like, well, there's Mother's Day, and then there's Valentine's Day. And what if we put a desk, and what if they could design? And you started with that whole thing. If ever in the industry, which is my goal, if ever in the industry, we're able to get ourselves to the level of creation that flower shops have within our grocery stores, we will have the magic. That's
a secret sauce.
Yeah, that is the secret sauce. Because what always ends up happening is that labor becomes this discussion, down the road, and it's like, how do we shave labor? How do we shave a little more? Let's get pre-made arrangements. Let's get this. And that's ultimately what sort of collapses a floral department is that you start trying to take away rather than invest.
Yeah. Well, obviously in what you're doing and the success that you're seeing, to me, I see Vallarta, investing in the floral department, right? Yeah. It's not
very up and coming. I would say that.
Yeah, I would say so too, based on what I see.
My goal really is to get to the point where we can do events. Again,
cool.
Our clientele, our customer, the culture within our stores, like people really are event driven. You've got quinceañeras, and you've
absolutely
got Cinco de Mayo, and you've got all these things. There's constantly a celebration going on. And so what I want for the floral department to become a part of that. I want to cater more to that. So,
I love that.
And I think we can do it. When you think about being able to do somebody's quinceañera in a way that they want to do it, with the food and the flowers and the fixtures, be able to do that and walk in and help somebody with their event and then retreat and allow them to enjoy that. That's really something as I consider very high level. I would like.
Yeah, I do too. I think that's incredibly cool. Well, you said something, and I'm going to lead with this. You talked about people think flowers are a frivolous buy, and I caught that, and I actually jotted it down, and I want to add it to what I want to say next. And I gave a speech a while back, and I brought this stat up, and I was talking to produce and floral, and I found this. I thought it was really interesting, and I'm going to throw this at you, give you this stat, and then I'm going to ask you a follow-up question to it. But Barcelona Institute of Global Health, Colorado State University, in collaboration with the World Health Organization, specifically, the researchers found this stat, that for every 10% increase in vegetation within 1,600 feet of your home, your probability of death decreases by 4%. So my question to you with that statement, and going back to what you said, but my question for you is, why do flowers matter?
God, there's so much with that. There's a ton of studies out there that talk about, beautiful surroundings, pleasant smells, vibrant colors, all of that. It reduces your blood pressure. It reduces stress. It increases your mental health. There's so much surrounding that. And so I think when you talk about the stat of people living longer, I kind of laugh about that. I think that it's because myself, I have 4 plants that barely survive in my house because I'm never home, but but I take care of them, and I feel obligated to them. They're this living being that I'm wanting to take care of. And, I think that part of that whole living longer is that whole idea of like, as long as we have things to take care of, and as long as we have things to sort of nourish and to, and to help grow, that really, it really helps us to stay alive. Like, that's the point of life, right? The whole point of life is like, is reaching out to other things, other living beings, and like, not to get too sappy, but my stepfather always says, we're all just kids walking each other home. And I really believe that. I think that there's this connectiveness that we all have, and plants and flowers and all of that are part of that. I'm really into succulents, so there's nothing more exciting than propagating a succulent from a succulent leaf. The excitement of watching it turn into an actual succulent. That whole process is really invigorating. You think, look what I did.
I love it. That's a drop the Sharpie comment right there. I think it's great. I love that the way you framed that up, that we're all a part of Mother Nature. We're all a part of nature some way or another, whatever you want to believe is great. But I mean, at the end of the day, facts are what facts are, and science is what science is. And I think it's really important that we recognize that our connection to, Mother Earth and this planet is far greater than jumping in our cars and, buying a coffee at Starbucks. There's a lot more going on than just that. And I think it's just when you take a step back and you have an opportunity to go in the grocery store and you get to see the floral department, I hope people have a chance to stop for just a moment, reflect on some of the things you just shared, kind of what we talked about. Oh, I get that now. That is an important part. That is something that, you know what? A single cut rose in your house can make a whole lot of difference in everything, right? Or just whatever it might be, whatever.
Some of those varieties, good Lord, get yourself roses. Get yourself some of our roses. I'm telling you, some of those varieties, you put them in a vase and you watch them bloom. I just love it. I love it.
It's powerful. It's powerful to remember all that. And flowers, I think, take us right back to that. And if putting more vegetation around people's homes, make a better planet, make people happier. And to your point, drive purpose. Come on, kids, it's a flower. Let's make it happen. We could use more flowers in the world. Hey, you want to fix the climate? Plant more stuff, right?
Yes.
I mean, you can talk about all these solutions that we're working on, but common sense says plant more trees, plant more things. That'll help.
Exactly.
Right? So what's next for you guys? Anything exciting coming up for the rest of the year for you guys?
You know what? It's good for us right now. Like I said, we're investing a whole lot in training right now. So it's really nice. Mother's Day is kind of the bookend to the major holidays. They start again in the fall, but for us, graduation season is huge. It is a huge time for us. So we're going to roll into that, but then we have a couple months where I get to just plan, and that's
nice.
Going to be a real it's going to be a good year this year because, like I said, I have a really nice team this year, and we're really going to I'm excited to see what's going to come next from everybody's brain. So
I love it. Well, congratulations on your success. Like I said, if you're in Southern California, you probably shop there already. If you're visiting Southern California and you're out doing retail check, whatever the case may be, it is a must stop. You got to go check it out. I highly recommend. Go for lunch. Trust me, you'll be fine. It's a great decision. Trust me, go for lunch. You'll be very happy with that choice. It's a fun shop to be at. It's a fun store to shop at. And thank you very much for being here. This was really a cool conversation.
Thank you. I really appreciate this. It was fun.
Yeah, well, thank you. See, you said it at the end. That's all that matters. We're out of here, kids. I'm not saying another damn word. I ain't screwing this up. But seriously, Paige, I really appreciate you being here, and thanks for hanging out with me. It means a lot to me to have this conversation because we don't have it enough, and we don't. You're not the stepchild. Quite frankly, you guys are kicking in some doors, and people need to pay attention. It's a big part of today's retail world.
You just wait. This is like I figure I got another 14 years left before I feel like I want to do something different. But
there you go.
But I 100%, I plan on making Vallarta really the premier and the destination to go to when you need flowers.
Gauntlet thrown down, kids. There it is. You heard it right there. You can't take it back. You said it's recorded. It's done. Vallarta, they're going to kick in flower doors. Be ready, everybody. Thanks again for being here. Everybody, thanks for hanging out with us today. I hope you enjoyed this conversation. It was certainly one that was needed to happen. What a great time of the year to do it with Mother's Day and spring and things popping up all over this country in your gardens and your trees in your backyard and your parks, wherever it might be. So take advantage of Mother Nature. She's here for your enjoyment. Look at her a little bit harder. You might find something you like and something may inspire you, just like buying flowers at Vallarta tonight. So thanks for being here. We appreciate you. Don't forget to check us out on social media, TLC Todd-versations. We're there because that's where all the cool kids are, Paige. That's why I'm on social media, just to be cool. I am like a Kardashian. That's the way I look every day. I wake up and go, God, I'm almost like Kim, but not. Yeah, except for the money. Anyways, thanks for being here, everybody. Take care of each other. Remember, go inspire somebody today. It's incredibly important. Buy somebody some flowers. Do something nice for somebody. Take care, everybody. We'll see you soon.